Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course Nutrition for the Family. This is the first module, that is meal planning, and in this lecture we shall be studying about different factors affecting the food choices. I am Dr. Jaspreet Kaur, presently working as Associate Professor in Government College for Girls, Ludhiana, Punjab, affiliated to Punjab University, Chandigarh. And this project is funded by DTH Swayam Prabha, MHRD, New Delhi. In the previous lecture, we had studied about the concept of meal planning. And then we studied what are the advantages of meal planning. And along with that, we studied that what are the various factors which will affect the meal planning exercise. And in this lecture, we shall be exploring various factors which affect the food related behavior and our food choices. So, what are the factors affecting the food choices? Have you ever noticed that all of us, we have our own food preferences? Even within our family, our food choices, they vary a lot. What are the reasons for these variations? Let's study different factors which affect our food choices. So there are various determinants which affect our food choices, and we can categorize them into as biological factors, economical factors, physical factors, social factors, psychological factors, and our attitudes and beliefs. So let's study. The first important biological determinant which will decide that whether we will choose a food or not is hunger and satiety. The central nervous system of our body, it actually regulates our hunger and satiety. Its role is to balance between hunger, appetite stimulation, and the amount of food intake that we will be taking. The macronutrients which are present in our food, that is carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, they actually send satiety signals to this center. And these signals, they are of varying degrees. So that is why when we take more fat in our diet, we feel satiated for a longer period of time. And another important satiety signal could be the total volume of food which we consume. We call it portion size of our meal. Next important determinant is palatability. So you will agree that there is increase in food intake as the palatability increases. So increasing food variety, and increasing the number of courses in a meal. For example, if we start our meal with soup and then we serve starters, then main course, and along with that we serve some beverages, and we end up with a dessert, it will definitely increase the total food intake. Food is not only a source of nourishment, but we consume food for its pleasure value also. So, palatability is another important biological determinant of our food choice. Geographical area and climate are also determinants of our food choices. For example, if we are staying in some hot areas, we would enjoy cooling foods such as shakes or lemonade or similar cooling things. And when we go to some hilly areas or cold areas, we eat hot food, rich food. And similarly, in the coastal areas, we find lots of seafoods. Another important determinant is cost and accessibility. It's important primary determinant. As we know that low income group people, they have tendency to choose um, foods from very few food groups, and usually they cut down on fruits and vegetables because they are very expensive. So similarly, accessibility to shops, markets, they are another important physical determinants. Consider the case of tribals. They do have some challenges as they have poor access to shops. Even the normal Russian shops, they are not accessible to such people. So for them, the food choice, it gets limited. Then education and knowledge of a person is another determinant. Many studies they have found that level of education can actually influence our dietary behavior, and that behavior manifests during the adulthood because while growing up the person encounters various medias and channels, and nutrition knowledge it is gained by various media such as public media. uh, TV is there, then some reading material is there, and the person reads food packages, the food labels, and of course, some health regarding information and nutrition regarding information is also gained by consulting some health professionals. Convenience and economy, they are very important determinants of our food choice. It has been found that people they eat foods which are easily accessible, quick and easy to prepare, and within their financial means. So convenience is actually valued by customers, and it is reflected in their food choices as they really enjoy. They can prepare a food with the recipes by using very few ingredients. Many people they frequently eat out, and they get the home delivery, which limits their food choice because they will be relying on the menu card of that very restaurant or the place from where they are ordering food or where they are dining out. Our meal pattern is another important determinant because this will depend upon the occupation of a person. It is has a strong effect on our food choices because choices they vary a lot with people who are working in routine 9 to 5 job, say 8 hourly job, and people who are working in night shift or day shift. uh, the food selection will differ, and some people who are traveling a lot. So all these are determinants because they will affect our food choices. Let's talk about some social influences which can affect our food choices. So, first such factor is cultural influences. Cultural influences they lead to differences in our habitual consumption of some foods and in traditions of preparation also. It can lead to restrictions such as a person which may be following some kind of culture, he may exclude meat or milk or some vegetables in diet because that culture does not permit that. Social context is a very interesting determinant of our food choice. Social influences on food intake means the impact of one or more persons which have on eating behavior of others. Social support can have beneficial effect on food choices, and we may opt for some healthier versions of food items. And shaping of food choices that begins at home itself. Similarly, our family, our friends, they influence our food choices. There is a clear difference in the social class with regard to food and nutrient intakes. Social trends, media, peer pressure also influence the food intake. It is often considered rude to refuse food or drink which is shared by some group or offered by some host. One becomes accepted as a member of a social gathering only when he accepts the food which is served to that person. People's values, environmental ethics, religious beliefs, political views, they are also strong influences of food choices. So, by choosing to eat some foods or avoid other foods, people they make statements about themselves that reflect in their values. For example, people may select only foods that come in containers that can be reused or recycled. People are also influenced by advice of religious heads in making food choices. When it comes to social interaction, food signifies friendliness also. Meals are social events, and sharing of food it is a part of hospitality. For example, throwing parties on your birthdays or special occasions. So when your friends they are going out for pizza party or ice cream, you will definitely follow them because you cannot refuse that friendly proposal. So social interaction is another important determinant of what kind of food we will choose. Stress has a very strong influence on the food choices. And the stress affects our food choices through a very complex phenomena. And this mechanism of stress induced changes in the eating pattern, they can actually tweak a lot of our food choices. And if the stress is prolonged or frequent, then adverse dietary changes can actually happen. Emotional comfort or mood is another psychological phenomena. Some people eat in response to emotional stimulus, for example, to relieve boredom or depression or to calm the anxiety. A lonely person may choose to eat rather than to invite friends or to risk the rejection. Eating in response to emotions can actually lead to overeating and obesity, and maybe many a times people they tend to become dejected and they do not wish to mingle with others, and rather they indulge in eating some kind of rich foods. Body image is another important determinant of our food choice. Sometimes people select foods which they believe will improve their physical appearance and they avoid those which may be detrimental to their health. Such decisions can be beneficial when based on sound nutrition and fitness knowledge. But uh, actually it can undermine good health when people they start following some fad diets and they can go to some extreme diets, then it actually affects their health. Then eating disorders, they have a lot of impact on the food choice. It is affected when the individual suffer from some eating disorder like anorexia nervosa or bulimia nervosa. This type of disorders, they are actually result of combination of lots of factors such as biological factors, physiological factors, familial factors, and socio-cultural factors. And many a time these eating disorders they actually destroy the person's health. Our food choices they are affected a lot by our positive and negative associations. People they tend to like foods with happy associations, such as we enjoy sweets during Diwali or other festivals or happy occasions such as cakes during Christmas and during birthday parties. And similarly, we often develop some strong dislike for certain foods which we had to eat when we were sick or we were forced to eat when we were not hungry, or any kind of food which we just liked a lot and our parents told us to eat at that moment. So that food gets certain kind of association which will shape our food choice in the future. Then along with that, some personal preferences. Often people, they choose foods because they like certain flavors. For example, we Indians, we enjoy strong curry spices, and Western cuisine, it doesn't include them. Their food is quite bland in nature. Similarly, gunpowder that features in South Indian preparations, whereas the North Indian cuisine has garam masala in it. So, personal preferences also decide what kind of food we are going to choose. Attitudes and belief can change our food choices a lot. For example, attitude towards dietary fats, it has actually changed in the past 50 years. We have decreased the amount of fat consumption when we compare what we used to take 50 years ago. Now people, they do not take that much amount of fat. So attitude and beliefs, they change the dietary pattern. Many a time, food choice is also cultivated. For example, certain food items, we do not have initial taste for them, but we actually cultivate it. For example, if a person migrates from one place to another, they are exposed to different type of food which are native to that place, and then along with that, learning different methods of cooking this that kind of food, and whatever the available items are there, they bring lot of variety to the meal, and hence after that food is accepted, that will change the food choice of that person. Another important factor is optimistic bias. Now, what is this optimistic bias and how it affects our food choice? People believe that their diets are already healthy. They are not going to change that way. But if people believe that they can actually improve their diet, they need to change their diet with one or specific other reason, then they will change. For example, if there is a sports person, he wishes to make a mark in his field, he wishes to excel in his field, so he is motivated enough to eat certain kind of diet which can actually has a positive effect on his body, on his performance. Similarly, if you talk to a pregnant woman, she can go to any extent to choose that kind of food which will be beneficial for his fetus. There are certain health conditions which actually limit our food choices. For example, aging, people who have lost their teeth and they are on dentures, they cannot chew well, they will have a different type of food choices. And similarly, exposure to some medication or some chronic illness, when your taste sensation, taste buds have changed, then you are forced to eat certain type of food. So you will select a food which may be actually not that tasty, but you consume it, or you choose it to attain certain level of health or to cure some illness. And another important determinant is habit. We often select food just out of habit. For example, idli and dosa, that will feature in South Indian breakfast because they are habitual of eating that kind of food. And parantha, that will feature more likely in the North Indian cuisine. Along with all other factors, the way food is presented also affects our food choice. For example, how the food looks, what is the aroma, what is the color of the dish, what is the color of that plate in which the food is served, the cutlery, the crockery, the color combination, all these things, they have some positive effect on the enjoyment and acceptability of food. And similarly, the acceptability of food is also increased when we include food from different regions. For example, a person who is staying in North India, he will definitely enjoy food from South India or some other continent, for example, Chinese food, Thai food, or Western cuisine. So, whenever there will be variety, whenever the food will be served nicely, the food choices are going to be affected. So let's summarize what we have studied in this lecture. We had studied regarding various determinants of food choice and what are the various factors which affect food related behavior. So the first factor which we studied was biological factors. In biological factors, we studied that hunger and satiety and palatability are two important factors. And then we studied about economical and physical factors, in which we talked about geographical area and climate and cost and accessibility. And along with that, we studied the effect of education and knowledge regarding food, and then convenience and economy is another factor which we studied. And along with that, we studied that meal pattern also affects our food choice. Then we studied about the social factors which affect the food related behavior. In the social factors, we studied that there is effect of cultural influences and social context, values of a person, along with that social interactions of a particular person. Then we studied the psychological factors and their effect on the food choices. We considered the role of stress, then emotional comfort or mood, which the food provides, then what is the body image of the person, certain eating disorders, and positive and negative association, and along with that, personal preferences also, they affect the food choices. And then we studied that there are some other factors, such as what are the attitudes and beliefs of a person, food acceptance, optimistic bias towards certain foods, then existing medical condition, along with that, certain habitual eating pattern, that is our habits, and along with that, lastly, we discussed that presentation is also important determinant of our food choice. So this finishes our topic, the determinants of food related behavior. Thank you very much.